William Blake is often remembered as a poet, painter, and mystic. What is less often understood is the extraordinary discipline behind his vision. Blake did not merely imagine worlds, he constructed them. At a time when reason, science, and industrial order were reshaping society, Blake turned inward, not in retreat, but in rebellion. He believed that reality was not limited to what could be measured, that truth existed beyond sense, beyond logic, beyond consensus. And he devoted his life to making that invisible world visible. Blake lived in London during the early Industrial Revolution. Smoke thickened the skies, factories replaced fields, children labored, cities expanded, human life narrowed into productivity. Where others saw progress, Blake saw spiritual collapse. He believed humanity was losing its inner sight. That imagination, once sacred, was being reduced to ornament, and he refused to accept it. From a young age, Blake experienced visions. He claimed to see angels in trees, prophets in fields, and divine figures moving through London streets. Many dismissed him as mad. But Blake was not chaotic. He was precise. He engraved his own plates, printed his own books, mixed his own inks, bound his own pages. Every element of his work was built by hand. Vision alone was not enough. It had to be disciplined into form. Blake believed imagination was not fantasy. It was the deepest mode of perception. To him, the material world was only a surface layer. Beneath it lay a symbolic reality, moral, spiritual, eternal. And the task of the artist was not to copy appearances, but to reveal essence. This belief placed him in permanent opposition to his time. While Enlightenment thinkers elevated reason, Blake warned that reason without imagination becomes tyranny. While society worshipped productivity, Blake defended contemplation. While progress accelerated, Blake slowed perception. He saw that mechanization was not merely transforming labor, it was reshaping the human soul, reducing life to function, reducing thought to calculation, reducing meaning to efficiency. Blake resisted with vision. He created an entire symbolic universe populated by mythic figures, Urizen, Los, Orc, not as fantasy, but as psychological forces. They represented reason, creativity, rebellion, oppression, freedom. Through them, Blake explored the inner conflicts of human consciousness. His art was not decoration. It was cognitive architecture, a map of the mind. Blake believed that humans do not perceive reality directly. They perceive through mental frameworks, and if those frameworks become rigid, perception collapses. He warned, "If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear as it is, infinite." For Blake, the tragedy of humanity was not ignorance, it was habituation. Seeing without noticing, living without perceiving, existing inside inherited assumptions. His work sought to shatter those habits, to fracture automatic vision, to force consciousness open. This made him deeply unpopular. He sold almost nothing. He lived in poverty. Critics dismissed him as incoherent. Institutions ignored him. Yet he never adjusted his vision to gain acceptance. He believed consensus was often the enemy of truth, and comfort the enemy of clarity. Blake lived his entire life inside this tension, between revelation and isolation, between cosmic imagination and material hardship, between inner infinity and external obscurity. Yet he never softened his vision. He never diluted his symbols. He never translated his ideas into safety. Because for Blake, vision without risk was meaningless. He believed that true perception requires courage, the courage to stand apart, the courage to endure misunderstanding, the courage to trust inner sight when external validation never comes. Blake died largely unknown, but his influence grew long after his death. Romantic poets, symbolist painters, surrealists, psychologists, philosophers, they all returned to his work, not because it was beautiful, but because it was true in a way logic alone cannot reach. Blake understood something rare, that imagination is not escape, it is penetration. It allows the mind to see through surfaces into underlying structure, to perceive meaning beneath form, to recognize infinite depth inside finite experience. In a world increasingly dominated by systems, metrics, and mechanical thinking, Blake's mind remains profoundly relevant. He reminds us that perception itself is a moral act, that how we see determines who we become, and that without imagination, clarity collapses into conformity. William Blake did not seek to explain the world. He sought to wake it, and that unwavering commitment to inner vision, more than poetry, more than painting, more than myth, is what makes his mind worth entering.